Hello, and welcome back to the channel, God and Girl Talk. Thank you for being here, and I am just so excited for this topic because on this channel, if you have been here with me for a little while, you know that we talk about all things God and all things inner work. Because if we are not working on ourselves to get better, to gain more wisdom, to gain more direction in our lives and make better choices and decisions with God, what are we doing? We're just wasting our time here on this rock, essentially. And that's where I love to live. I love to teach from. I love to share and just give examples from my own life because I feel like that's the best way we learn is going through our own personal experiences. So today's topic is no different because it is going to be talking about one of, I won't say the most misquoted, I'll say the most overused concepts in the Bible, which is the renewing of our mind. So, just to read you the passage in Romans 12, verse 2, it says, "Don't copy the behaviors and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." So many different versions of that. And it could say, by changing the way you think or by the renewing of your mind. And either way, it just means that God is going to guide you. God is going to show you what is good, pleasing, and perfect for His will, not our will. And that only comes from releasing control, allowing God to shift and change the way you think and interpret situations and experiences that you have, and not just go based on our own beliefs, our own thoughts, our own decisions, our own opinions, or our own made up narratives, which are what we're going to talk about today. Because as human beings, I feel like a defense mechanism for us is to protect. We want to protect ourselves. Who are we most concerned with and obsessed with on this earth? It is ourselves. Being blatantly honest, you will never likely care about anyone else more than you care about yourself. If you're a mother or a father, yes, you will care for your children deeply, but in a different way than you care about things happening to yourself. Let's be honest. Because it is just nature. We want to self-preserve. We want protection. But with that, we can do a lot of things as far as defense mechanisms to protect ourselves. And mine is always going to go back to the mentality, the mental state that we put ourselves in. Not really the physical protection, like some of us can probably protect ourselves better than others. We don't care about that right now because we're not in a world or society that we have to be on guard 24/7 outrunning predators. Now we are more in a mental and a spiritual battlefield more than ever. And it is so important for us to protect our minds and to renew it daily and to not make up things and let our programming that is a gift that God gave us from our natural instincts, which is self-protection, self-preservation, but to not let that get in the way of distracting us from the goodness that God puts in people or the goodness that is Him, or just seeking good things outside of always looking for the next shoe to drop, the next ball to fall, like just waiting for the worst possible case scenario, which is a self-preservation technique that a lot of us do. So we make up these stories sometimes, because I have done it multiple times, and we try to protect ourselves by making other people the enemy. And I realize this, multiple times in my life, but I'll just say that it just jogged my memory again because I have a friend who was telling me that she had a friend that they were very, very, very close about 4 years ago. And this person kind of just dropped her out of nowhere. And she was like, that's incredibly interesting. Blocked her on all social media, blocked her phone. And then one day, 4 years ago, she was very hurt by this, mind you. Of course, who would have a really close friend? You don't know what you did, but this person just completely cut you out of their life, ghosted you. Terrifying. So then she comes back 4 years later and she's like, hey, I want to, get lunch with you one day. I want to catch up. what? You blocked me. You literally went out of your way to ignore me and had make sure I had no contact with you. So clearly I had got a lot of questions, and so does she. But she's like, no. What? First off, you can call me on the phone. However, I never even knew what I did to you. Like how did we get here? Now 4 years later, and you want to pick up like nothing happened. I'm like, I got the same question. But she essentially said that one day they went out, they had a good time, and I guess her friend had too good of a time, and she felt like my friend was judging her. And my friend's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I don't even know if I remember that night. And that is that internal inherent shame that maybe the other person is experiencing. But we do this, maybe not to this drastic or extreme of a level, but there are times where we make up in our mind that someone has an opinion of us, someone has a judgment, someone has a thought that they may or may not be thinking. Does it matter? Likely, no. Should they share it with you if they have it? Yes, but if they don't, that's none of your business. Okay? But I did it all the time. I have done this multiple times, and I know if you're watching this, you likely have too. There's no shame in it, but that can literally destroy our minds by putting so much validation and so much thought into what everyone else is thinking as opposed to what God already says about us, which is we are already fearfully, wonderfully, and perfectly made. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. Maybe my friend was judging her back then, maybe she wasn't. Then they could have had an adult, mature conversation about it and moved on with their life, but that didn't happen. Why? Because this person likely wasn't to the maturity level where she could have realized that that was a possibility, or even if her friend was judging her, it didn't really matter because we are not aligning ourselves with truth anymore. We are now aligning ourselves with people's opinions, thoughts, and beliefs of us. And that is not at all what God wants us to do. So I say that because I also had a situation a few years ago when my sister was here. So now she lives in another country, but she came over when I was just starting my deep inner work journey, probably almost close to 5 years ago now. And I was telling her about a situation where I was out with a friend and she was drinking a little bit in excess, and then she got in the car and drove, and I was really like kind of nervous for her. And I told my sister about this, and she just looked at me like one of those looks like why are you friends with this person, is what I thought on the inside. And I felt very judged, very attacked, even though she said nothing. And I was like, well, my sister's name, I was like, I don't need you in your validation to be friends with her. And my sister's like, okay, I never said that. And I don't know why, guys, but that changed everything for me. And I was like, did I just project my own insecurities onto my sister and made up some narrative in my head that I thought she was judging me for? And now it came out before I could even stop it from coming out. And then she's like, I never said that. So you just made that all up in your head. Maybe she was thinking it, maybe she wasn't. She's like, that's on you. She's like, that's your friend, that's your life. Whatever you want to do, okay. But she's like, I never said that. So I just thought that was interesting because I'm like, I really did. I just projected. And that will never, never get me to a state that God wants me to be in, which is living in peace and freedom and free from any negativity or people's opinion or obstructive views or validation. That will never get me to where God wants me to be on my journey, is creating these narratives in my mind, not renewing it daily and having my confidence found in Him and Him alone, and then projecting that onto someone else, thinking that I should care what they think, when in actuality, I really don't. But now I have just essentially given my power away to that person for them to say I was never thinking that in the first place. So I just thought it was funny because we do this all the time. And I've done this multiple times. I'm just thinking of that one little example. I have to catch myself all the time to make sure that I'm not projecting my perceived opinions and thoughts of what other people are thinking, because that's not reality. That's just my own insecurities and me not renewing my mind in truth, which is God and what He says about me, and seeking that validation outside of myself. So an inner work tool that I want to give for you in this to help you is just a simple question. Ask yourself before it comes out of your mouth or before you make a rash decision and decide to project on someone or cut them off or do all the things, who told you this? Who told you whatever the narrative is that you have created in your mind? And why do you care? Has it happened yet? Ask yourself all these questions. Is this even going to matter in a week? No. Likely the answer will be no. And I just want you to think about that because a reflection question that you can journal about is like, what story am I believing and telling myself that it hasn't even happened yet? I don't want us to get to the point where we are letting our perception become our reality, where we are letting people's opinions and validation and their thoughts now enter into our minds and take control over our minds, and we are not continually renewing our minds in truth that is Jesus and what he says about us. So I hope that helps us stop creating the narratives that are keeping us stuck, that are keeping us from living in freedom with God and Christ, and setting us free on a path that we can start releasing that control to God and living in that purpose, that power, and that dominion that he created us for. Please leave a comment below if you have a time where you created a narrative in your mind of what somebody told you and you had to check yourself and you had to bring it back and you had to have that talk with yourself and be like, okay, this is first off not important. Secondly, it's not my business. If you are so bold to share, I would love to hear it because I know this community is so mindful and we are so spiritually mature and emotionally mature that we can share these things and we can support each other. And we can even look back and laugh and ask ourselves, who told us this? And does it matter? And will it matter a week from now? All right. I hope this was helpful. If you struggle with any of this, please let me know and I can pray for you or I can help you in any way possible. All right. Have a good day. Bye.